Dave is back at it here to give everyone another Game of Thrones Season 6 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, it's pretty important if you're not caught up to the point where I am in rewatching or watching Game of Thrones or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description for you. If that happens to be the case and you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this video any further, simply to avoid any potential spoilers. This will be Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 9. Title of this episode is called Battle of the Bastards. This will be my review, reaction, recap after just finishing watching this amazing episode. Tyrion, Missandei, Grey Worm, and Daenerys meet with the Masters, the Slave Masters, who offer them terms of surrender. Now, Daenerys counters that the meeting was called to discuss the Slave Masters' surrender and proceeds to ride Drogon into Slaver's Bay with Rhaegal and Viserion to burn their fleet. Grey Worm kills two of the Slave Masters, but Ysene is spared, and then Tyrion tells him to warn the other Masters of Daenerys' power. Meanwhile, Daario Naharis leads the Dothraki to slaughter the Sons of Harpy, who are outside massacring the freedmen in the city. Theon and Yara arrive in Meereen and form an alliance with Daenerys, offering their fleet in exchange for help in overthrowing Euron and recognizing Yara's claim to the Iron Islands. Jon, Sansa, Tormund, and Davos meet with Ramsay and his bannermen. Jon, of course, refuses Ramsay's offer of returning Sansa to him in exchange for a pardon, while Ramsay surprisingly declines Jon's offer to settle their dispute with single combat. I thought Ramsay was a badass. I thought he might accept that. And then Ramsay also gloats that he has been starving his hounds in anticipation of feeding Jon and his advisors to them. Ramsay will probably regret that comment after I'm done with this review. At camp, Sansa insists that the Stark's army is not big enough and warns Jon not to underestimate Ramsay. Davos and Tormund discuss their time serving their respective leaders, Stannis Baratheon and Mance Rayder, and acknowledge they may have served the wrong men in the past. Davos discovers the pyre where Shireen was burned and finds the wooden stag he had carved for her. The armies gather outside Winterfell the next morning. Ramsay releases Rickon and has him run to Jon while shooting arrows at him. Jon rushes to intercept Rickon, but Rickon is killed just as Jon reaches him. That was a sad moment, although Rickon didn't really get much time on Game of Thrones, but it still sucked that another Stark has been slaughtered on this show. Enraged over this, Jon charges at Ramsay, who orders the Bolton archers to fire and his cavalry to charge. Davos orders the Stark force he orders them out of position to shield Jon. The ensuing battle leaves hundreds of Bolton and Stark soldiers dead, creating a wall of corpses and allowing the Bolton infantry to encircle the Stark forces while Small Jon's men prevent the Stark army from escaping over the wall of bodies. Although Jon survives being trampled by the wildlings, the Stark forces appear doomed when, of course, suddenly a horn sounds in the distance and it's Littlefinger and Sansa arrive with the Knights of the Vale, who easily smash the remainder of the Bolton army. Tormund kills Small Jon Umber in the chaos. He actually bites his throat and spits it out like a wild man that Tormund is. Ramsay, of course, retreats to Winterfell, but 1-1 breaks down Winterfell's gates, and the Stark loyalists overwhelm the remnants of the Bolton garrison. Now, a mortally wounded 1-1 is finished off by Ramsay as he shoots an arrow in his eye, and then he tells Jon that he's reconsidered the offer of a single combat, and Jon overpowers Ramsay and starts beating the shit out of him. He had 21 unanswered face punches, and then stops when he sees Sansa and orders him imprisoned instead, leaving Winterfell once more in the hands of House Stark. And it was pretty cool when they took down the Bolton flag and put the Stark flag on there. That was a touching moment. And then at night, Sansa visits Ramsay, who has been imprisoned in the kennels with his hounds. Ramsay insists that his hounds will not turn on him, but Sansa reminds him that he had purposely starved them and walks away smiling as they devour Ramsay and eat him alive. And that's the end of the episode. You already know what score I'm going to give this episode. This is a crazy episode. In fact, this episode of Game of Thrones was the first time I heard somebody talk about a single episode of Game of Thrones. It was Trev's Chan 2. So subscribe to Trev's channel, Walking Dead content, awesome stuff. He covered Game of Thrones too, but he said this was the single best episode of a television series he'd ever seen. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought a Walking Dead episode was that. And yeah, this is a pretty cool episode, although it's not my favorite. There's other episodes that I liked even more, at least 2, but I certainly loved it. So this is a 10 out of a 10. Hands down, the cinematography in this particular episode and the battle scenes were just amazing. And the character of the episode, I mean, I could give it to certain characters, but I'm going to give it to Jon Snow because he was a badass. He was a badass. Tormund was a badass. 1-1 was a badass. Sansa even did something in this episode. Then you got Daenerys and Grey Worm, who were awesome too. So this is an unbelievable episode. So it's your turn. I want to hear what you have to say. So if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, please don't do anything but smash that button, that like button right now. And then if you know anybody that would be interested in any sort of Game of Thrones reviews, or you just think that this video is so amazing and you want to share it all across all your platforms, go ahead and do that. Share it. I would appreciate it. Sound off in the comment section about your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. So if you like this episode, great. What would you score it? I'm sure you remember this episode. This is a pretty memorable one. And who would you pick to be your character of the episode? And what was your favorite moment of the episode? I like when the Stark flag goes back at Winterfell. That's a touching moment. And last but certainly not least, you all know I'm trying to grow the channel, so don't forget to hit that sub button. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And JDev will return.